Thomas's Friendship Adventures, Episode 3, You Can Do It, Percy. Percy is a little green tank engine. He has 4 wheels and is the number 6 engine on Sir Topham Hatt's railway. He's not as strong or as fast as any of the other engines, but even though he's small, Percy always tries his hardest. One day, Percy was pulling cars filled with vegetables. He puffed and chuffed through the countryside and up Gordon's Hill. Gordon's Hill was very steep. Percy puffed and pulled his hardest, but it was a long climb. Just then, James arrived at the bottom of the hill with the express. Gordon was away on the mainland, so he had to do his work. James puffed and pulled his hardest, but he had to wait for Edward to help. "Bother," huffed James as he stopped on the hill. Soon Edward came and buffered up behind James. Edward pushed and James pulled, and together they got the express moving. Percy had just reached the top of the hill when James chuffed past. "Oh look, it's Slow Coach Percy," he snorted. "I'm trying my hardest," gasped Percy. "Pah," huffed James, "you're not even a proper engine." This made Percy feel very sad. That night, Sir Topham Hatt came to see Percy. "Edward is needed to help Mavis, Bill, and Ben at the quarry," he said. "I need you to work in this place at Wellsworth Yard." "But I'll never be able to do Edward's job," puffed Percy. "Nonsense," said the Topham Hatt. "You are one of my engines, and you are really useful." But Percy was very worried. What if he wasn't useful? The next morning, Percy puffed his way towards Wellsworth. "I hope no one needs pushing up Gordon's Hill," he puffed. Soon Percy arrived at Wellsworth. There were lots of freight cars, and they all looked very heavy. "I'll never be able to move all those," puffed Percy. "You can do it, Percy," called Thomas. This made Percy feel better, and he began to shunt the freight cars. He shunted milk cars for Toby, and coal cars for Murdoch. He even shunted fish cars for Arthur. "Maybe I can do it," puffed Percy. But then James puffed by. He was pulling the express with lots of freight cars. Percy watched nervously as James puffed towards the hill. James puffed and pulled his hardest, but once again the express was too heavy. "Bother," huffed James. So Topham had telephoned the yard manager, and the yard manager spoke to Percy's driver. "We have to push Gordon up the hill, Percy," said his driver. But James is a little too big for me to push him up the hill," started Percy. "You can do it, Percy," called Thomas. "You can do it." "I'll do my best," puffed Percy, and he set off at once. When James heard that Percy was coming to help him, he was very cross. "Huh," he huffed. "Percy's only a tank engine with 4 wheels. He will never be able to push me up the hill." Percy soon buffered up behind. He pushed and pushed with all his might. James barely moved. "Is that the best you can do, Slow Coach Percy?" he puffed. Percy sighed. He was about to give up, but then he remembered what Thomas had said. "I can do it," puffed Percy. "I can do it." He soon buffered up to James again, and he pushed and pushed and pushed with all his might. And slowly but surely, James's wheels began to move. Percy puffed and chuffed. His engine roared. His axles ached. I'm doing it! I'm doing it! Percy panted as he pushed James slowly but surely up the hill. When Emily saw Percy, she blew her whistle loud and long and cheered. You can do it, Percy, she called. Go on! This made Percy feel very happy. He pushed and huffed and chuffed and puffed and pushed with all his might, and soon he got James to the top of the hill. James was very surprised. Now his train will run on time. Percy was very tired, but he was very happy. I did it! He cried. That evening, Sir Topham Hatt came to see Percy. Well done, Percy, he said. You have shunted your yard very well and helped James up the hill. You are a really useful engine. Thank you, sir, puffed Percy. And he felt like a really useful engine indeed.